get some space, whatever. I don't think that you can say that the provoker is abusing. I think that's a very unhealthy relationship, but I don't think that I would call that abuse, personally. Um, I mean, as I say, I think it's an incredibly unhealthy dynamic and potentially incredibly unkind. But, I've got children who provoke us specifically because they try to recreate the violence that they come from. I mean, they do it very intentionally because they want to create the same chaos because the chaos is safe. Um, if somebody is doing that, they need help. But also, I would just say the relationship dynamics are unhealthy and you need to. But the minute that the person snaps and becomes abusive, hits her, breaks stuff, whatever, that's on him or on her because it happens both ways. I think you are responsible for yourself and your own behavior. Um, yeah, that's maybe an unpopular opinion, but that's my opinion.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else have another input here or maybe um another view?
May I jump in?
Yes, please.
I absolutely have to agree with Jackie. That relationship dynamic is very rotten. And also, we are adults. We are very responsible for our own outbreaks, for our own emotions, for our own regulation. And if maybe we have seen that we have this problem, it is up to us to get the necessary assistance so that I am not easily poked. Now, again, for a woman to poke a man until he gets to the point of reacting violently, it is only because he has not taken heed to what she has been asking for or what she has been encouraging him to do, or the dynamics are not well balanced. It's not a well communicating relationship. So obviously there's some things missing in there that they need assistance with. And for one to be easily poked by someone you say you love, it's an absolutely rotten dynamic.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cornelia. And if I can also then jump in, thank you so much for all your comments. And yes, I do agree with the comments from both Cornelia and Jackie. And I think it's important to understand that abuse is abuse. Regardless of the circumstances, it's still abuse. Whether you have been provoked or not, as soon as you commit an act of abuse, it is abuse. That is exactly what it is. And like we said, which was raised by both Cornelia and Jackie, that we would, if you find yourself in a relationship where perhaps the communication dynamics are not up to par, or you guys do not respect each other's spaces, or because it happens. I mean, for example, I can be a very moody person on a Monday morning when I wake up and I do not want to see anyone and I don't want to talk to anyone. But that is who I am as a person. And I would expect my partner to respect that, but I would also respect how my partner is on a Monday morning. So it's all about reaching a common ground. But now, if I had to wake up on a Monday morning being in my normal bad mood self and start threatening someone, or decide I want to slap them across the face because I'm having a bad Monday or because I'm in a bad mood, that is all abuse. And so it's a lot of self-regulation. You need to be able to regulate your own emotions and your own feelings, and you need to decide. In an abuser would need to ask the question, why did I act that way in those circumstances? Why did I lash out? Why did I hit this person? Why did I threaten this person or humiliate them? Why did I do all of those things? And that is something that the abuser will need to deal with, and not the other party. Because, like I said, if you commit an act of abuse, it's abuse, and that is that. And you would need to look at what caused that abuse. Why did I act this way? Is it the way that I grew up? Is it the way I was treated like a child? Is it my perception that I have with women? Because my wife, hypothetically, my wife has been pestering me all day, So now I'm going to enforce my dominance on her and I'm going to slap her so that she can keep quiet. You see, so we need to look at the abuser will need to look at their own behaviors and they would need to correct their own behaviors in that regard. And you know, if you find your partner extremely irritating, that doesn't give you a right to be abusive towards them. Um, just end the relationship or go to therapy, couples therapy, and all of that. But that doesn't give you any right to abuse. All right. So I think we answered your question, Shakir.
Perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let us then move on to our next topic. All right. Impact of GBV. We will be finished in about 10 minutes. All right. So GBV has serious consequences. Okay. Firstly, trauma, depression, and anxiety, which are very prevalent amongst the victims. Reduced self-worth and confidence. You know, a lot of victims have body weight issues and self-image issues where they feel that maybe they're always too fat or they feel that they are too ugly. And 100% of the time, it's not the case. It's just that in the abusive environment that they were in, they were perhaps demeaned and their self-worth was reduced to the point that they feel that they were fat or that they were you know, ugly or would never get a job or anything like that. Risk of substance abuse, so usually as a form to escape um, all these forms of abuse, usually the victim or the survivor would resort to substance abuse. Disrupted family functioning is also a big topic. Can somebody give me an example there? Jackie?
Question again?
Um, Topic number 4, disrupted family functioning as a consequence of GBV. Can you give us an example?
Yeah. So, I mean, if a husband is busy beating the wife, um, the children will witness that. They'll be acting out. They won't want to be home. They'll be fearful of their father. They might feel the need to defend their mother. They might end up getting abused as well. This disrupts schooling. This means they can't learn because they're in a constant state of vigilance. They might, every time it happens, they might leave because that also often happens in the cycle. He beats her up, she leaves, he then, apologizes, she goes back. And so the family just doesn't function like a normal, stable family, but rather, it's this constant change, volatility, unsafeness, no routine, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Lisbeth? Lisbeth, hand is up.
No, I just wanted to say, due to GBV, the children ended up growing up in alternative placement. So that also falls under disrupted family functioning. They are
Absolutely.
May
no
I add
longer being raised by their parents. Instead, they are being raised by alternative caregivers.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. Shakir, did you have something to some input
Yeah,
there?
I wanted to add to that. It's let's say 5 o'clock is around the corner, and the children are busy playing, and they're free and they're happy, and then you just see the mother's tension coming in. Please put everything in its place. You don't want your father to come home and see the house untidy, and then he will just explode, and so on and so on. So their normal play and their normal living and everything has to come to a standstill because this man is going to erupt
Perfect.
as
That
soon as he
is,
gets home.
yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Jackie, Shakir, and Lisbeth for your examples. Then we also have long-term physical injuries. An interesting fact is that abuse actually changes the structure of, I think I'm not sure what part of the brain it is. I think it's the hypothalamus or something along those lines. So firstly, we have the common
So
physical
that
injuries. Sorry?
I can answer that. So they
Okay.
find in abused children that the prefrontal cortex is smaller, and exactly as you said, the hypothalamus, the reptile brain is enlarged. The hypothalamus, the fight flight, is actually enlarged because they live in a constant state of hypervigilance, and so their prefrontal cortex hasn't grown as much and isn't as developed because of them, because you can't learn when you're in a state of fight flight. So the hypothalamus is enlarged um, and the prefrontal cortex is shrunken.
There we go. Thank you so much, Jackie, for assisting me there. And that is actually quite interesting to note that abuse, whether it be emotional or, any type of a form of abuse, if you face that type of abuse for a long period of time, it physically changes the structure of your brain. And for the longer time that you're in that abuse, it could lead to actual brain damage. And then you also have other physical injuries that were actually also caused by the abuse. For example, if your partner, I don't know, if he hits you on the head all the time or throws you down the stairs and you maybe hurt your hip or hurt your ankle, some of these physical injuries cannot be recoverable, and you could have them also for the rest of your life. All right, thank you, Jackie, for that. I got confused with the with the biological terms. And then there's also the secondary trauma on the children in the home, because the children are the ones that are also exposed to this abuse. And not necessarily directly, but well, yes, they can be exposed to it directly, but also there are many instances where they're exposed to it indirectly. I actually had a case that I was dealing with where the father would take the child whenever the mother would escape from the house and go stay with her parents when she was being abused. She would leave the child with the dad because she was scared of what he would do. But what he would do is he would take her in the middle of the night, the child, to the middle of the night on the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning, walking with the child. And he would then send her voice notes saying that, if she doesn't come back home, um, that he's going to put the child in danger. And that is exactly what he did. So that is also direct and indirect trauma that children will also experience as a consequence of GBV. All right, now let's get into the legal framework. I think we've understand now very clearly what GBV is all about, and the signs to look out for GBV, the cycle of abuse, who are the most impacted by it, and also the impact that GBV has, not only on the victims, but also on children as well. Before I move to the legal framework, does anybody have any other comments or questions? Anything that they would like
I
to?
have a comment.
Yes, Cornelia.
Listening to what has been said, just in addition also, sometimes women tend to use men as a fear object for children, and that adds on to the trauma, whereas you'll find that the dad is not as threatening, but when it comes out to the children, when the mother says it, she says it in a manner that is suggesting that this man might do something dangerous or something evil to her or to the children once he sees this mess. So going back to what Jackie had said as well, it's also parenting, the skills how we parent can also cause damage on our own children where we ourselves as parents don't realize it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Cornelia. And you're 100% right. There is actually a legal term for that, which unfortunately it's after 8 o'clock at night. My legal jargon goes straight out of the window once the sun goes down. But there is a specific legal term for that. And maybe somebody else can assist me with that. And I have dealt with the case actually in the High Court with that specific matter where the mother was basically attempting to estrange the child from the dad. So they had separated. They had a parental agreement in place. But every time the child would go and visit the mother, she would, talk bad about him, and say things that would change the child's perception of the dad as well. And that is also illegal in South Africa. And usually, a social worker or a family advocate working with a social worker would interview the child, and if these allegations come about, that this would also be investigated because it's also not right. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. Thank you very much for that. I see there's something in the chat box. There we go, parental alienation. Thank you, Elizabeth. That is exactly the word. Yes, it's called parental alienation. We try to alienate a child from the parents. Okay, thank you so much for that. All right, to quickly cover the legal framework, we've got 3 minutes left. So there's key legislation. There's lots of legislation in South Africa that deals with gender-based violence. We have the most prominent one, Domestic Violence Act. And then we have the Sexual Offences Act and the Children's Act. Now, I want to ask a question. What is the difference between domestic violence and gender-based violence? Who can answer that? Let me see. Molefi. Molefi is a bit quiet.
Yes, domestic violence is a violence that is happening in the household, whereby a man and a woman, including the children, will be having a fight, and sometimes one will be find himself or themselves being violated in another way. But with regard to this other one, we spoke about domestic violence and what else?
And gender-based
Uh,
violence.
yeah, and the gender-based violence, such as men and women, or maybe people with disabilities, including LGBTQI. So the difference could be that the two are not exactly the same based on that. So domestic violence is domestic violence, and the other one is another one.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. Frederica, are you online? Frederica? Okay. Nozuko? Nozuko, are you online? Can anybody hear me? Jackie, can you hear
Yes,
me?
Yes,
I can hear
no, we
you.
got
Oh,
Yeah, you're
okay.
you. Yeah.
audible, you're audible.
All right, thanks. Because no one was responding. I thought maybe something was happening. Okay, so maybe Frederica and Nozuko are busy. So thank you for pointing that out. And just to add on to that, so domestic violence is what happens within a household. So it doesn't have to be gender specific or specific to a vulnerable group. It can happen to any members that stay within a household. So it can be between an uncle and an aunt. It can be the cousins. It can be the siblings that fight with each other. That's all of that is domestic violence, okay? And then, as we already said, gender-based violence is usually it's usually based on the grounds of gender. So it'd usually be against the other gender, or it would be based on against a vulnerable group, such as a child, or a disabled person, or LGBTQ. There are a lot of incidents, however, where domestic violence and gender-based violence overlap with each other, where you have in the household, for example, you have the mother and the father, where the dad always hits the mom, for example. That would be gender-based violence, but also that would also count as an issue of domestic violence. All right, another interesting question before we go. So if your neighbor gets in a fight with you, for example, if your neighbor decides to throw eggs through your window, through your house's window, and he threatens you, is that classified as domestic violence? Who wants to take a shot and answer that one?
Yes, I think it could be domestic violence because I believe uh, these are two households that are fighting, So now, if this other family or this other neighbor is fighting you, throwing things at your house, so they're violating your rights as well. So in other ways, we can consider that as a domestic violence, and one have to go and open a case, and you can even have a protection order against those people for restraining them from not doing that anymore. Or you can even end up being in court with that family. So we cannot say it's a gender-based violence. It must be a domestic violence because though it's not on the very same house, but these people are neighbors and so on. I think, yeah, that's how I view it, Nick. Thank you.
Okay. Shakir, do you have the same view or do you have a different view?
No, I had on a lighter note. It's just called street fighting.
Street fighting. Yes. So is street fighting, is that domestic violence act? Does it fall under the Domestic Violence Act?
I have no idea.
Okay, no problem. Does anybody have conflicting views with Molefi?
I do.
Yes, I don't.
Yes. Okay, let's
Okay,
start.
you go.
Sorry.
Let's start with Cornelia, and then we'll get to you, Jackie.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. I would have to disagree because we've just discussed what domestic was or what domestic referred to. And it said that it's between a close-knit family within one household. Um, and a neighbor is outside our domestic holding, so I would have to say it's not really domestic violence. And looking also at someone throwing uh, um such a thing at your house or at your window, I would say maybe or harassment or I don't know what else I could put it as, but I think maybe harassment.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
Cornelia.
harassment. Okay, I can agree with you there.
Jackie, what is your views there?
I'm thinking for it to be gender-based violence, there needs to be that power imbalance. A neighbor throwing something through your window is not a power move necessarily. It's a violent act. It's a vandalism and harassment, but it's not gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is specifically between genders and where there's unequal power dynamic because
Okay,
of
but what
society or
about
whatever.
the Domestic Violence Act? Would that apply in this instance where your neighbor abuses you?
No, I think no, I think domestic violence is within an intimate family.
All right.
I
Thank you
might
so
be
much.
wrong. That's what I think.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So yes, you are correct. Molefi, you're nearly there, but you're also on the right track. So when it comes to issues, so remember we also have the Harassment Act. The Harassment Act is not listed here. I'm not too sure why. I'm gonna have to see. But you also have the Harassment Act. Um, and it's important to note that Domestic Violence Act applies to instances within a household. Okay. It can be anyone within your household. It doesn't have to be between spouses. There doesn't have to be a gender, opposite genders. There doesn't have to be a power imbalance. There doesn't have to be any of that. As long as it's between members of a household. That would then form part of the Domestic Violence Act. If your neighbor decided to, you know, beat you up in your yard or on the streets or something along those lines, you would have other options to look at. So you would have the Harassment Act if your neighbor's harassing you. You'll be able to apply for a protection order through the Harassment Act. And if you wish to lay a matter with the police station, it would be an assault case. It would usually be harassment and assault. Um,
Yeah.
and so it would be,
So
yeah.
yeah, so Gemini says it's physical. If it's physical, then it's assault. If it's repeated threats, then it's harassment. Property property damage will be malicious damage to property, and excessive noise will be municipal by law civil matters.
Yes, so that would be a bit different, but you would still have avenues. And the reason why there's a specific act only for domestic violence within households is because of the nature of that type of violence. It's much more difficult when it happens within a household. And there are other a set of requirements and things that need to be considered when it comes to domestic violence, as opposed to matters like your general assault matters or your assault to GBH, grievous body harm, assault, your harassment, etc. All right, and to wrap this class up, because I see we're now over time actually. So auxiliary social workers need to know how protection orders work. Okay, you need to know protection orders like the back of your hand. You need to know what form it is, who fills it out, who must sign it, what needs to be included in it, where do you take it to, where must it get stamped, how does it get served, what are the roles, how do they operate. Social auxiliary workers need to know protection orders from back to front, okay? Because that forms a very busy part of a social worker's career. And also mandatory reporting rules we need to understand that there are certain groups of professionals that need to report gender-based violence, whereby ethically they are bound to do so. And then we're also going to look at the rights of survivors. All right, but I think that is quite a lot, so we're going to look at that in the next class. So thank you so much, everyone. Does anybody have any further comments, compliments, criticisms, anything before we knock off for the year?
I
Miss,
have a
Nick,
question for
okay, wait,
when the
let
recording
me start
stops.
no,
with,
let him go first because mine is outside this.
okay, let's start with Shakira.
Now I'll ask it when the recording is stopped.
Or is it that kind of comment that you have that I need to
Yes.
stop the recording?
Yes.
Maybe if I need to stop the recording, maybe then just send me a WhatsApp message instead.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is going onto all of our platforms. Molefi?
Oh, yes, thank you, Nick. Just a quick one. We have received a communique during the course of last week indicating that our portfolio should be or must be finalized by January, I think the 4th next year. And the other one was that we have to register for the graduation ceremony that will come end of January 2026. I'm not sure as whether this is affecting us or is affecting the other class that came before us or what.
So it would apply to you as well. If you have completed the course, and done your practicals and your portfolios, and then you would graduate through us internally before you write the exam. The exam is an
Okay.
external process, yes. So you'll get two
Okay.
certificates. One will be the certificate from us saying, congratulations, you completed the course. And then the second certificate will be from the QCTO, where they officially accredit you as the social auxiliary worker. So that will only apply to once you've completed the course.
All right, no, perfect. Because I just want to get clarity on that because I haven't even went for practicals as well. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll still have another chance for next day because I'm aware that you guys are having graduation more often.
Yeah, no, our courses are quite flexible. So you can
Yes.
complete it on your own time. Don't worry about that.
All right, no, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, no problem.
All right.
Thank you so much then, anyone. Oh, I see Elizabeth had a comment. Elizabeth, did you have a comment? I'm just seeing, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for today's topic. We always talk about women, men abusing women, but we hardly talk about women abusing men. I think maybe that should be a topic for another day.
All right, perfect. Yes, thank you so much. The reason why I haven't touched on that yet, Elizabeth, and that is also a reality that we have in South Africa with women abusing men as well. The reason why I haven't touched on that yet is because majority of cases at the moment is men against women. But yes, it definitely is an issue as well. And I think when I say genders, I just use men and women as an example, with the woman being the victim and the survivor, because that is 90% of what the reality is in South Africa. But yes, you are correct that it can happen also between against men by women. Thank you so much for that. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely evening. Have a lovely Christmas for those who are celebrating Christmas. Have a lovely festivities for those, whatever you'll be celebrating or not celebrating in December. I hope everybody enjoys their December and enjoys their break and has a happy entrance into the new year. And this is our last class for the year, so we will see you then again. We will probably post our class schedules in the beginning of next year, for our first quarter. We will then continue with this topic. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely evening and keep well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Is it still recording?
Oh, please hold. Give me one moment.